Fraud, extortion, blackmail, embezzlement, hustlers, scammers are all terms we're familiar with. Fraud or deception has been around since the start of time, whether it be for financial gain, political power, territory gain, religious belief, or personal gain. An old proverb cautions that a fool and his money are soon parted, so as investors are always on the lookout for immediate returns and maximum earnings. Many high-return opportunities sometimes look too good to be true. The problem is sometimes they are, and millions of smart and wealthy investors have fallen victim to some of these frauds. Here are 5 of the most creative, audacious, and shameless con artists and scam merchants. I'm sure you'll agree some of them may just have pulled the wool over your eyes too. Welcome to Top Trendacy. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for upcoming videos. Starting with the number 5. The Baker Estate Scam. This scam, which took place over 70 years before coming to an end in 1936, involved 28 swindlers who convinced people all across America that a wealthy individual named Jacob Baker of Philadelphia had died, leaving his estate behind with no heirs. The fraudsters contacted people named Baker, saying that they represented the estate and would stake a claim to the property in exchange for a small fee. Approximately 3,000 people responded to the mail, handing over nearly $3 million to the scammers. The cheats were eventually caught, charged, and found guilty in a court of law. On number 4 is the Charles Ponzi and the Ponzi scheme, total scam $20 million. Ponzi from Parma, Italy arrived in Boston in 1903 without a cent to his name. He was responsible for one of the most renowned, yet simple frauds in history, the Ponzi scheme, also known as the pyramid scheme. The genius nature of the scheme lies in its simplicity, so much so that the fraud has been replicated in many guises to the present day. The scheme recruits investors with a promise of payments or services from enrolling into the scheme. The investing scam promises high rates of return with minimal risk to investors. The Ponzi scheme achieves returns for the early investors via the acquisition of new investors, who will essentially pay the early investors. As the number of new investors reduces, so does the amount of money to pay the previous investors. This is when the scheme becomes unsustainable and fizzles out, leaving the latest investors with no return. Ponzi was arrested and charged with 86 counts of fraud and sentenced to 14 years imprisonment. He died penniless. On number 3 is the scam of William Thompson, the original con man. William Thompson lived in the mid-19th century in New York City and was likely the first person to become widely known as a confidence man, a type of fraudster that became hugely popular in the buzzing metropolises of the late Industrial Revolution. As a con man, Thompson would exploit the naivete of people he met in the streets, bars, or events with a type of social engineering scheme dubbed a confidence trick. Thompson would walk up to people in a friendly way, greet them and give the impression the two had met before. After gaining the trust of a stranger, Thompson would simply ask, "Have you confidence in me to trust me with your watch until tomorrow?" Unbelievably, this worked. Thompson managed to repeat the trick on various people before authorities caught up with him. Somehow, that "you can trust me, give me your watch" trick became so popular it inspired a whole generation of confidence artists. One woman, Bertha Hayman, even continued to find victims while locked up in jail. Bertha's scheme was more elaborate than Thompson's and quite similar to today's 419 fraud, aka the Nigerian letter scam. Hayman would claim to have lost access to her enormous fortune and needed a bit of financial help to get it back. William Thompson's exploits as a confidence man eventually led to the term con man, or a swindler who sweet talks their way into robbing people. On number 2 is the funny and mastermind execution as Victor Lustig tried to sell the Eiffel Tower twice. The Eiffel Tower was constructed for the 1889 World's Fair, coinciding with the 100-year anniversary of the French Revolution. At the time, it was the tallest structure built by humans and kept that title for 41 years, until the Chrysler Building in New York surpassed it. In 1925, when Victor Lustig was 35 years old, he learned how expensive the tower had become to maintain. He subsequently came up with the idea to sell the Eiffel Tower to a scrap metal dealer. Lustig presumably found the most gullible scrap metal dealer in France to give a quote and even managed to have a sizable bribe added in. He got away with it, too. The scrap metal dealer was so ashamed of being tricked that he didn't go to the police. After the scam, Lustig moved to Vienna in a train with suitcases full of cash. He considered the fraud so successful that he moved back to Paris the next month to do it again with a different scrap metal dealer. Although he did not succeed a second time, he was still able to evade arrest. In the United States, George C. Parker carried out a similar con around the same time when he sold the Brooklyn Bridge. Several times, buyers attempted to set up toll booths, which had to be removed by police. In India, a man named Natwal became famous for having sold the Taj Mahal, the Red Fort, and the Parliament House. On number 1 is the historical scam of Albys Dos Race, as he printed himself real money. Albys Dos Race was born in Lisbon in 1896. And when he was 28 years old he printed himself so much money that he caused an economic crisis that led to a nationalist military coup d'état. Race forged a contract with the Bank of Portugal that authorized him to print a new set of banknotes and approached the company that previously printed Bank of Portugal notes, Waterloo and Sons, to make all the new cash. As the printers used legit, original plates to print the banknotes, the forgeries were perfect. Race had 200,000 banknotes printed, worth almost 1% of Portugal's entire GDP, comparable to publishing about $2 billion in currency today. At one point, nearly half of the 500 escudos notes were fake. In fact, Race had so much money, the businesses, real estate, and luxury goods he bought created a boom in the economy. Race used a bank he acquired in Angola, a Portuguese colony at the time, to launder the money before, brilliantly, he attempted to buy himself a stake in the Bank of Portugal to retroactively approve his unauthorized notes. Eventually, Race was found out by journalists of O Século, a newspaper owned by tycoon Alfredo da Silva, who saw Race as a competitor. The extent of Race conspiracy was so large that few believed it could have been carried out by a single person. The government and the courts suspected that not only corrupt employees of the National Bank could have helped Race, but that he also had support from the German government in an attempt to take over control of Angola. Race received a 20-year prison sentence, of which he only served 15. He died of a heart attack in 1955. Dear fellows, the history is paved with thousands of scams. Scammers always look for creative methods of scams and they target everyone. Scams succeed because they look like the real thing and catch you off guard when you're not expecting it. Scammers are getting smarter and taking advantage of new technology, new products or services and major events to create believable stories that will convince you to give them your money or personal details. So, protect yourself. Do not open suspicious texts, pop-up windows or click on links or attachments in emails, delete them. Don't respond to phone calls about your computer asking for remote access, hang up. Keep your personal details secure. Choose your passwords carefully. Review your privacy and security settings on social media. So guys, always take care of yourselves and your loved ones. If you like our video, please subscribe to my channel and share the video. See you in the next video.